So, as someone who has struggled with alcohol addiction and substance abuse throughout the entirety of my youth, starting at age 17 and carrying it on up until my early 30s, I decided to give it all up for good and lead a completely sober life. Alcohol played a big role in my life as a young adult and truly was a fun pastime, but all too quickly it began tearing apart my life, ruining my friendships, affecting my jobs, and completely destroying my dating life. It was becoming a problem, one I knew I needed to fix. But how would I do it? There was only one way out, and that was to quit completely cold turkey, forever. So I thought I'd delve into a little bit and tell you my story about my alcohol addiction, how I overcame it, and what it's taught me over the years of living a sober lifestyle. So let's go back a bit to when my journey of sobriety first began. Now, it was just the day after Thanksgiving on November 24th of 2017 when I had decided to completely quit alcohol forever. Before that day, I had always been a social drinker, only drinking on occasions and when social gatherings would happen. But as time went on, I was using every social gathering as an excuse to drink. Now, I didn't drink every day, but the times that I did drink, I would go overboard and drink in extreme excess. I had become unmanageable, unable to control myself, and it was a major problem. It was becoming hazardous to my life and my relationships with those I loved and cared for. I was 32, and it was time to give up this addiction for good. Now, I have tried countless times in the years before to quit drinking, but every attempt had failed, and I ended up right back where I began, just drinking my life away. But this time, it was different. This time, it was personal. I was always a very happy social drinker, but it was starting to change me, turn me into somebody I didn't really like. It was turning me into a very angry person, and that I just could not have. On the night of Thanksgiving, things were going great and definitely having a fun time, but as the drinks went down, so did the vibe. Now, as the night went on, I ended up drinking too much, and the happy social drinker ended up being the very angry drinker within an instant. Now, my girlfriend at the time tried to talk me down, tried to calm me down, but I wasn't in a clear state of mind, and I just ended up lashing out on her. Now, I know that wasn't the greatest thing, but what stopped me was the look in her eyes. You know, it was the fear, the sadness, and in an instant, I knew I had fucked up, and so I went into the bathroom, and I cried. Now, after realizing what my actions were and how bad it was, I decided to sleep it off and see if things would be any better in the morning. Now, once I woke up the morning after, I felt so much remorse and just heartache and sadness that I vowed to her and myself that I would never touch another drop of alcohol as long as I lived. Now, she had her doubts, and I don't blame her one bit, but I was gonna make sure that this decision stuck. I wanted to prove to her and myself that I could make this happen, that I could stay true to my word on being sober. So I did whatever it took to make sure that sobriety was my whole new lifestyle. Now, I would like to point out that it happened to be her birthday, so just that notion gave me that little extra drive to pursue this new goal. We were in Arizona at the time, working in the small town of Tucson near the Grand Canyon, but then we relocated to Portland, Oregon, and that's where my fight for sobriety really began. I started going to AA meetings, many of them as a matter of fact, and I ended up going to one in particular that I really liked because there was more people like me. You know, it was a secular meeting, so there was people that weren't really into the whole religious aspect of it all. And so I really enjoyed that. I felt very welcomed, so that was the meeting I continued going to. I also had to avoid people and places that associated themselves with alcohol. And anytime I was asked to go out or do something that involved possibly coming across alcohol, I said no. I basically had to put myself into my own isolation, so to speak, to make sure that I didn't fall back into my own self-destructive habits of getting back into drinking. Now, the hard part wasn't accepting that I had a problem with alcohol. I already knew I had a problem with alcohol. The hardest part was keeping the self-discipline to keep myself away from temptation. Now, like any other addiction, quitting isn't the hard part. You can say you're gonna quit and all that, but it's keeping the self-discipline and holding yourself accountable that keeps you away once those cravings begin to hit. And I knew that. Now, the first week, I totally thought I had it in the bag. It was definitely cake and it was going by so smoothly. I thought everything was gonna be good. But it wasn't until the next 30 to 90 days came where I started to see this choice and this decision start to come into play, and it got a little harder as those days went on. Now, with me being in Portland at the time, it was very difficult to keep on my path, seeing as the urge to drink was always there. You know, with a brewery about every single corner and signs about alcohol just strung throughout the city everywhere, that whole city is just a mecca of just alcohol. It's bred on alcohol. So, you know, I had to kind of put mental blinders on to keep my focus in front of me and not get distracted by anything so I wouldn't fall off the wagon. Now, one thing I can say is that being a skateboarder and trying to be sober is very difficult because the skate scene has always kind of been riddled with alcohol and partying, and you know, that whole skate scene is very much alive in Portland, so it was really kind of a temptation, but I did stay on my path and was able to keep my sobriety going throughout that whole skate scene. So fast forward a year later, and I had made it the whole year without consuming any alcohol whatsoever. It was a huge thing for me, but in the back of my head, I still knew that I had made it this far once before, and I still fell off the wagon. So I was determined to keep it going and bypass my own record for sobriety. Now, moving forward years later to now in the year of 2023, that girl and I are no longer together, but my vow of sobriety is still standing and going stronger than ever. I am just over 5 years sober, and I have done a lot in my life since the beginning of this journey. I got back into seasonal work, which has given me the opportunity to travel and see beautiful places all over like Zion, Glacier, Mackinac Island, Michigan, and many more places in between. I have taken more care of my body and changed everything about my life for the better, and I have been able to do it all because I didn't stray away from my path. Now, I know that was quite a long story, but it's a major key to how I became the man I am today. Now, there's a few things that living a sober life has taught me on this long journey of sobriety. That there's a lot of pros and cons to living a sober life. So one major thing is that life got extremely lonely once I started getting sober. And that's mostly because I lost touch with everybody that I used to hang out with due to the fact that most of them still drank and I didn't. And so I had to kind of distance myself from them a lot, and it was a little bit of a discouraging moment because I found myself doing a lot of things by myself a lot, but that alone time gave me time to look deeply into myself and learn more about myself. And one thing is I started reading a lot of books. I can definitely say I spent a lot of time in Barnes & Noble in the self-help area, just reading books and gathering information to better my mind, to kind of keep my mind away from the fact that I was feeling that loneliness. Another part going kind of into that is that meeting new people was a bit of a struggle. Seeing as about 75 to 80% of the people that I would meet and talk to were still basically in that drinking stage of their life, and trying to get a gathering or a meetup happening without having to have alcohol involved was a bit of a difficult task to do. And so it was kind of a struggle trying to find people that were like-minded like me and had the same ambitions as me and wanted to do more things other than go and drink. But I did end up finding people that were like me. I just had to kind of dig a little deeper to find those kinds of people. And there's this strange socially awkward scenario that happens when you're the only sober person surrounded by a bunch of people that are drinking alcohol and enjoy drinking alcohol. And that is that you feel isolated away from most of the world around you, and it's kind of a hard thing to deal with. And it makes it very hard to engage with the surroundings and the people that you come in contact with. Now, there are some high points to living a sober life, so if you are still with me, I very much appreciate you. One thing I noticed is that my emotions, my senses, they weren't all clouded over by the alcohol, so I was able to see the world around me a lot more vibrant, and I was able to engage with it a lot better. I was able to do things that I would normally not really have time to do or not want to do. Projects that I would always say I would do, but I never got around to doing them. Or, there was a lot of hikes that I had on my bucket list, and I just kind of pushed them back farther and farther. But, being sober, I was able to go out and actually do these hikes. And, I've seen a lot of really great places with it, so I'm really excited about that. I was able to skate a whole lot better than I was when I was a drinker, because I was able to focus a lot more. I was able to be able to land my tricks consistently, which was really cool, and I really enjoyed that. I started paying more attention to my health and my body. And with that, I ended up drinking a whole lot more water, which was also a plus, because I noticed that my skin was clearing up. I didn't have so much acne. I was not as fatigued and tired throughout the day. I actually had energy throughout my whole entire day. I was really happy about that I was able to engage with my life a whole lot better than I used to when I was a drinker. And after I started seeing results in all of this, whether it was lifting weights or, getting into my skating again, my self-confidence was boosted sky high from this, and it was so great to just feel like I was accomplishing something in my life instead of just watching my life go by and not doing anything about it. Another thing that being sober has taught me is that you truly are the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with. If you hang out with losers that are just all about living their life just to party and get drunk all the time, you yourself are going to be just like them, and you're not going to go anywhere, and you're going to spend your life just slumped out on a couch eating potato chips and drinking your life away. But if you change that environment, you go hang out with people that have goals, dreams, aspirations to be great in their life, you yourself will start seeing your life change for the better. You will also start having goals, dreams, and aspirations. You will start wanting something better for your life. One thing I learned is that you got to ask yourself, do I want to be a loser and hang out with these people the rest of my life and be just like them? Or do I want to become something great and have a really inspiring story to tell at the end of my years? I chose to have the more goal-set life, the more goal-oriented life, and so I had to change that environment. And that's one really good thing that came out of this, is that my life has changed a whole lot better since I left those losers behind. So if you yourself are seeing your life in kind of a, stagnant aspect, and you're seeing that you're not really going anywhere, take a look at your environment and your surroundings that you've put yourself in and see if anything needs to change. And if it does, make sure you change that. One of the last things that I learned is that I used to tell myself, I have chronic depression, it's never going away. And, I'm constantly depressed, I just hate my life. It wasn't my life I hated. It was the scenarios that I was in, the environment I was in. I didn't see myself going anywhere because I was just stuck with this alcoholism, this addiction that I couldn't get away from. being sober and not having that addiction to like kind of get in the way, I realized I don't have depression, and it's not a chronic thing. It's just that I was so low in my life that I didn't see it getting any higher at that point. It was just drowning me out of happiness, and I couldn't accept the fact that there was a change that I could do to get myself out of this funk. When I really actually put in the effort to just stick with the sobriety thing and, you know, stay true to myself and my goals, dude, depression has not been an issue since I got sober. And that's the really great thing, is that you may think you're depressed and that you're just chronically ill about it, but you may just be stuck in a funk because you can't get out of your addictions. Since bettering my life, I have not seen any signs of depression. I have not had to take an antidepressant. You know, I smile every day, and you know, I used to not smile all the time. I used to always find an excuse to just be sad and angry about things. And now there's nothing to be sad or angry about. It's just, I see things a whole lot differently and a whole lot clearer now that I'm sober and not clouded over with alcohol. I don't have that whole, you know, I'm depressed mentality anymore. I was constantly using that as an excuse to not do anything. I still look back on myself today and I'm just like, dude, why did I use that as an excuse? I wasn't depressed. It was just my environment that I put myself in. I am so thankful that I've chosen sobriety, and I couldn't do this without the, you know, the love and support of all my friends and family that were backing me on this. I just gotta say, man, if you yourself are struggling with any addictions, whether it's alcohol or drugs, shit, even cigarettes or sugar, you know, and you wanna get out of this addiction, you wanna break the habit and start living a better life, you know, there are ways to do this. You know, ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I asked for help, and it's the best thing that I could have ever done. You know, if you know anybody else that is struggling, whether it's your family, your friends, anything, encourage them to get help. You know, and don't try to force it down their throat. They have to make that choice to do it themselves. But just kind of give them that little nudge, you know, and say, hey man, you know, like, I see that you're kind of delving into this addiction a little too much, you know, like, I think you may need help. Is there a possibility that you would want help? You know, and if they do, then by all means, kind of help them along, help them find places to go to and be their, you know, backing support. You know, don't judge anybody for it, because dude, we all have our vices, we all have our addictions. All I can say is that if you really want to live a better life, or you know somebody that has the potential of living a better life, you know, there are ways to do this. And I would encourage you to look upon your life or someone else's life and think, could this be a lot better for me or this person? Don't be afraid to get help. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because, you know, we're all struggling here in this life. But if we can do something to make our lives 100% better, it's a lot better to make that choice. So, you know, again, I appreciate you guys if you made it here. You know, there will be more videos coming like this. But this was just my story to you that I really wanted to share with you guys. So that's it for this video. If you guys have liked any of the information I have given you, or if you just really liked my story and you related to it, give this video a like. I would greatly appreciate it. You know, and if you yourself are dealing with an alcohol addiction, or you yourself are going through recovery, you know, tell me your story in the comments of how you're dealing with it or how you've overcome your addiction. I would greatly appreciate talking with you, and maybe we can, you know, create a community in the comment section. You know, somebody might need help with theirs, and we can give each other tips on how to deal with certain things. You know, I love engaging with my viewers. So with that said, I would greatly appreciate it if you would share this video with your friends. Somebody out there might need help, and this might be the video that can help them along starting their journey. I'm going to end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.